So this last session that I'm doing today is regarding reporting. We want to make sure that you are familiar with different types of reports that you can get out of the system. If you are someone who wants to build your own reports or learn how to run reports, we want to make you comfortable with that as well. And so I might tell you to contact your CSM a few more times during this session, but I'll try to keep that to a minimum. Maybe I'll just say CSM and then you'll know what I mean. So the objectives during this session is to introduce you to the Reports tab that is in the system, review some reporting needs that a lot of you have that are outside of normal carrier reporting, and talk about some of the most commonly used reports and what we use those for. And there is a reporting cheat sheet. I'm not sure if those have been handed out yet or where those are. Okay, great. So objective number 1, to introduce you to the Reports tab. When you log into the system in admin view, you've got the top ribbon menu, and under reports, there are 5 different options. There's to run a report, create a report, your received reports menu, scheduled reports, and sent reports. So I'm just going to briefly go over each one of those sections just to make sure everybody understands what you can find under each of those. So the first one is your run reports screen. And this would be where you are looking to put a report running, whether it's just for yourself or you want to schedule it. But the report has already been created and you are familiar with either what the name is or what part of the name is so that you can search for it. The one thing that I typically always recommend is that in the search bar, usually where it says all, it says standard. And if you do a search using standard, sometimes not all of the reports come up that you might be looking for. So if you just get in the habit of updating that to all and then doing your search, you'll find all of the different reports that are available on the system. If there's specific reports that you run on a regular basis and you want it to be easier to find those, if you click the star that's next to the report name, then that makes it a favorite. And so the next time you go to this Run Reports section, if you just select favorites, anything that you've favorited will fall under that menu to help you find it easier. The next option is for you to create a report. And I know a lot of you probably at this point don't have a lot of interest in doing that, but there's times you might think, you know, I just need to create something really quick. I've got 2 or 3 points of data that I need to report on, and I don't really have time to reach out to my CSM, or maybe you've reached out and you haven't heard back and you want to try to do it yourself. You know, whatever the case may be, you do have the ability to create reports in the system. And the first thing when you go to that Create Report tab is to pick what type of report it is that you're wanting. And there's several different options there in terms of, is it employees plus benefits and their covered dependents? Is it employees and all dependents with their benefits, and so on? If you're looking for, you want benefits from a certain payer, like you just need to know who's covered on Anthem, then you could choose a payer report. But those are the different types of reports. So once you choose the type of report that you want to be able to create, you're going to click that little green plus button down at the bottom of the screen. And then what pops up is all the different fields that would be available for you to add to the report. So you would just click each field, like if you want the employee's social security number to be on it, or you don't want their social security number, you want their employee ID, you would just click whatever plus signs it is for the data that you want. And this is a very long field of information. But what that's going to do is it's going to set it up in, basically for the quick reports, it's just column based. So it would give you each point of data in a column in its own field and run it as an Excel file. All right, where's my transition? There we go. So if you've got reports that are being ran by someone else and they're being sent to you, typically you're always receiving an email. Like a lot of you probably get tired of hearing my name because you'll probably see where Christine has sent payroll files or different files on a periodic basis. Your CSMs are probably sending you self-bills maybe, but if you know that someone sent you a report and you're like, that's buried in my email somewhere, I'm not sure where the link is to go back out and get that report, those are all going to be saved under this Received Reports tab. You don't need to go find the email to get access to the report. You can go right here to the Reports tab, look under Received Reports, and a list of any reports that you are a recipient of will be listed here as long as they haven't expired yet. And in most cases, some of them, like this example here, it looks like it's going to stay up there for 3 months, but sometimes it might be a month. You can look at history of received reports if you want under where it says current case. There's a drop down there that you can look at history if there's a report that's already expired, and then we can rerun it for you. But you don't have to go find that email notification that you received. The scheduled reports section is going to give you information on any reports that are scheduled to run on a regular interval. And we highly recommend that if you are running the same report every month at the same time, instead of having to remember to run that report, that you just schedule it and send it to yourself, or you can have us schedule it for you and send it to you. But you'll be able to see any reports that you've scheduled in here if it's showing that it's for the current case. If you want to see reports that I've scheduled for your group or that your CSM has scheduled, then the drop down would need to be clicked, and it would say, instead of current case, it would say current case all users. And then you'd be able to see all the different reports that are scheduled. There are cases where you may be getting multiple copies of the same report. And sometimes that happens if I'm putting the report running for you and I've got the parameters set up, and then maybe you reach out to your CSM and you say, hey, instead of just me receiving it, I also need you to send it to this other person in the company. And so they go through and they make a change and they add it. And sometimes what happens is it gets duplicated, and now you're getting a report from Christine and you're getting a report from Ben or somebody else, and it's the same report and it's clogging up your inbox. And if you see that happening, just reach out to us and let us know. Sometimes we don't notice that that's been done, and we can go through and remove any duplicates that might be scheduled. The Sent Report tab is going to give you a list of any files that you are sending out somewhere. So say you've ran a report and you've sent it, and then you need to refer back to it at some time, and you're wondering, where do I go to find that copy of that report that I sent? You can look here. And the same thing with the drop down. It says current case, so it's going to show you as a user the reports that you've sent. But if you change that to current case all users, then you would be able to see reports that I've sent and reports that anybody else has sent. And if you don't have that feature, some of the sites, the permissions all work a little bit different. So if you get back to your office and you're like, I can't click that drop down box, it only says current case, I can't see anything else, CSM, reach out to your CSM and we'll get that updated for you. So objective number 2 is to talk about some of your reporting needs, and then I'm going to go over some of those different reports. But one thing that we hear a lot of is, especially those of you that have self-service, or maybe you have multiple admin users, maybe you're the head of HR and there's 2 or 3 other HR people that work with you that also have access to the system, and you want to know what is happening day to day in the system. We can set up a daily activity file for you, or it can go weekly. It just depends on how much activity you have in your system. Some of you are in there several times a day, and some of you, maybe you're logging in once a week. It just depends on what your activity looks like as a company. But we can get those files sent to you. We can send those daily. I would recommend that you have us send them to you every weekday so that they're not running on the weekends. Typically, no one's really in the system on the weekend, but maybe they are. I don't know. I hope I'm not the only crazy person who works on the weekends at times, but we can just have them run certain days of the week if you need us to. Your summary or self-bills, we can create those for you, or you can create them. If you have plans that the carrier is not wanting to house the data. They don't really even know who you have covered. They're expecting you to maintain that eligibility. You're able to maintain it in our system, and then we've got this summary bill that will run and provide you with what needs to be paid. Now, I know there is a new report that is I think it's just been launched during the latest release, and I've reached out to Celerix just to try to get some information, but I know that there's a pain point with our self-bills sometimes for those of you that want to make sure that it matches up with what you've actually deducted from payroll. And so we're working on a way to be able to identify what those discrepancies are between what actually came out of someone's paycheck and what our self-bill is telling you you should be paying the carrier, because we realize that can be an issue. This is a big one this time of year, and I actually just saw this come through on an email the other day from someone, but we will get a lot of requests where you need a census, or your broker has requested a census from you because you're going to go out to market to a new carrier. And we have a census file, and so sometimes there's kind of a miscommunication when you say you need a census. We run a census file, and it's not very usable for the purpose that you need it for. But I'm going to share with you some other reports that will probably solve that. And I mentioned during the integration topic about membership reports for clinics. That's something that we're starting to get more and more requests for, rather than having those come from the insurance carrier, because the eligibility information is coming out of our system to your medical carrier. We can just as easily provide that same information to your clinic provider as well. Because what we're finding is we might be able to do it quicker for you than your insurance carrier. We would just need to know the type of format, and usually it's a payer report that we would run for that. Payroll reporting, we're going to talk about that a little bit more in terms of the different types of reports, but if you are not getting a payroll file from us currently, we encourage you to reach out and let us do that. Just helps to make sure that things aren't falling through the cracks in terms of changes that might be taking place in premiums. For the most part, I think most of you are probably receiving files, but there may be some of you who have chosen to want to do things manually in terms of updating deductions, and so those files may not be running. So to talk about a few common reports that will help meet some of these needs. Monitoring your daily activity with the activity report. That report's going to summarize changes to the employee, dependents, and benefits during the specified time period. So it's considered a change file, and if you're running it daily, then it's just going to look back to the previous day to see what changes were made during that previous day and provide that to you. It can be scheduled, and like I said, it's something that we would recommend that we schedule it at a certain interval, and it just needs to be based on how often you think that there are changes. There's also the ability on these reports, though, to not send it if it's empty. So if you have a change file running right now, and every day that you open it, except 1 or 2 days a week, you're opening it just to find that it's an empty file, you can ask us to suspend that and not have it send to you when it's empty. So I'm just going to say CSM real quick on that too. So your summary self-bill, we've actually made a few enhancements internally on some things that we're able to update on that. And we haven't really rolled it out to people, so you're getting a first look at that. The people who went to the other sessions, they're not going to hear this, so this is going to be good for you. But again, the self-bills can be scheduled, and we're able to add some additional customization that we've just recently started doing that includes some carrier information at the top of the self-bill. We had a lot of requests where you're wanting something that you can basically just use and send to the carrier, and that you were having to go in and manually add information to the top, but we are able to do that for you. We also figured out a way to add policy numbers to the product names. That was something that adding the policy numbers really isn't a feature at this point, but there is the ability to change the name of the product. And so I said, well, I could just change the name of the product to include the policy number and accomplish it that way. And I'll show you an example of that here in a minute. If you are finding that the current self-bill that you're receiving doesn't meet all your needs, maybe it's an age-banded plan and what we're sending to you doesn't have the age bands, CSM, because we can program that for you to include the age bands that you are needing on the bill. And we are able to report your covered payroll value instead of total benefit amount on plans such as your disability products that may be rated that way. So it's a custom feature. We have to just add some coding onto the report. And for the most part, we've probably caught most of those. But if you're finding that you are manually updating that information before you're adding it to a template with your carrier, let us know so that we can save you some time on that. So for those of you in the room that might be new to our system, or maybe you haven't even started using our system yet, this is what a summary page of the self-bill can look like depending upon the different products. And these are the enhancements that we've added. For the most part, if you just run a self-bill out of the system without us doing any of this customization, you're not going to see the header. But we've added a 4-row header on here to include the name of the client, the group number, who the bill needs to be submitted to. If you want the date range of what the bill is for, we can do that. In this area here, this is where we changed the name of the product to also include the policy number. So if it's something that you're manually adding right now, let us know, and it takes us we have to program it one time. It might take a little bit of time, but then it's going to be there. And so every time that self-bill gets ran, it will include the policy number on there for you. Like I said, with the age bands, if that's something that you need, we can definitely set that up, and we have the ability to change those around. This is showing a 10-year age band, but maybe your rates are 5-year banded. We can change those bands to be in 5-year increments as well. And then this just gives you an idea on the volume that I was talking about. If your rates are based on covered payroll instead of the benefit amount, and so you need that value right there to be your covered payroll amount, and you're currently manually calculating that out, let us know, because we can fix it for you. So in terms of your census information, like I said, the census file itself probably isn't the best file to use to provide to a carrier to get rates. There's a couple other files that I would recommend. The full audit is probably one of my favorite files that we use, and it provides the ability to report employee demographic information along with the coverage details all on one tab. Each coverage output's on a separate row, and if you need to know everyone who is eligible for coverage, whether they've taken the coverage or not, then the scope that you can choose is, I want a full report with waves. And that way it shows you someone who's eligible for that medical plan or for that dental coverage, whatever it is, even though they've waived it. So it gives you the full census instead of just the people who have actually taken the coverage. And you can also select a specific date range. I'm not sure what the reporting is that's needed or exactly what it's for. I believe it's some kind of a government reporting, but we've had a few requests lately that groups have reached out to us and said, I need a report that tells me everyone who was covered on medical as of July 1st of 2021. And some of you in the room may know what I'm talking about. And so this is the report that I used to provide that. And with that particular client, they needed to know who waived coverage as well. So by being able to choose full report with waives, then it gave us everybody who was eligible in July of 2021 and who had the coverage and who didn't. And they said, that's great, that's exactly what I need. So it was kind of by trial and error that we used a few other reports, but the full audit global is a good option for that. There's also the generic payer report, and this one would come into play instead of the audit file if you're also needing to include your dependents that are covered. This isn't going to give you people who are eligible but not covered by the plan, but it will give you a file that includes, there's 2 tabs to it, but the second tab gives you all insureds, not just the employees, not just the dependents, but employees and dependents combined together on that second tab. So if you need to actually provide full demographic information of employees and dependents to get those proposals, then you can use a generic payer report. This is one that we would also use, as I mentioned. We've got First Stop Health and some other clinic reports and things that we've been requested to send to providers, but they need to know the information based on who's covered on the medical or who's covered on a specific medical plan. We can use the payer report to do that. We can say, we just need you to pull everybody who's covered on medical, or maybe it's just the high deductible health plan, whatever. We can drill down to get that information to provide to your ancillary provider. So I mentioned that census extract, and the reason why I'm bringing it back up is just so you're familiar with it, and that way if you're reaching out to your CSM and you're saying, hey, we're going out to bid on our basic life and I need a census file, and this is what they send you, you may be able to say, well, I really needed it in the other format, but typically this report is used for us to be able to upload information into the system of your employees' demographics and their coverage, and if we need to make changes to it, that type of thing via an upload. Because it is multi-tabbed, your employees are on one tab, the dependents are on another, and coverage is on another. So it gets a little difficult to use if you're wanting to provide that information to be able to go out to bid. But it is a quick report on the employees tab if you're wanting to see how people are answering custom questions or the answers to custom fields. All of that information is on that first tab. So there is some purpose for it that you might want to run it, but if it's for bidding purposes to be looking at other carriers, I would choose one of those other two files. Now, in terms of payroll reporting, I had mentioned earlier about the payroll connectivity, realizing that those of you who are in the public sector, you may not have as many options there. But for private sector with API connectivity and with the single sign-on with ProLiant, we do have the ability to report in more of a live environment when that information is getting entered into our system. Once the employee enrolls, it's almost immediately going to the payroll company to be set up on each person's record. So at the end of open enrollment, it makes it really slick. Either information can just flow over, or for the most part, we have it going to a dashboard and then we kind of control it. But there is no more having to send files over and uploads and things like that. It just goes into the system. But we do have custom reporting available, and I wanted to provide everyone with a list of the companies that we currently have formats for. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you all have the same format if you are using a specific provider, because that only happens in a perfect world. But I know ADP, we've got a couple of different formats that we use. I thought there was one format, and then they threw me for a loop and gave me another one. So we do have a couple different formats available. If ADP is your provider and you're not currently uploading onto the payroll side, talk to us about that, and we can set up an ADP formatted file for you. Computrol is someone that, gosh, we've worked with on uploading payroll before we started working with Celerix. Back in the days of paper, because that was what we were doing. When I first started working for the company, it was my job to take these huge stacks of forms that Mike and Wes would bring in after enrollments and photocopy everything and manually enter it all on a spreadsheet, and I would give Computrol the information as well for them to upload. And they created a custom upload on their old DOS system. I don't know how many of you are still using the DOS system, but then they came in and said, oh, we have an online system now, and they completely changed the format. So I do have both formats available. It's been by trial and error a little bit, and we always enjoy getting feedback from them on what it is that we need to do to make sure that the uploads go. And so those of you that have Computrol, that have the online system, you get emails from me that say, oh, you need to make sure that you have a leading zero in front of your deduction code because it needs to be 3 digits, and if you opened up the file as a CSV, that leading zero disappeared, or those types of things. But we try to make sure that we keep all those instructions from year to year to be as helpful as we can. LAO is a big one on our government entities, and They have been really great to work with in their formatting. I think just about everyone has the same format, and they've been super involved in being able to assist in those uploads. So if you have Lao as your payroll provider and you're not currently uploading, talk to us about that. We can get Lao involved. They can train you, show you what needs to be done. But they've been really great to work with just in terms of being able to customize things for us. We do have Munis is another one that I think everybody that I have that uses Munis has a different format. But if you just let us know what fields it is that you need, we can definitely work with you on that. But sometimes these payroll providers are so customizable that everyone has customized things a little different. But we do have the ability to create the format that you need for them. Same thing with New World. We've got a few groups that are with them. I think some are uploading and some are not. And I believe you have to have a specific reporting module with them in order to be able to do uploads. So if you've got them and you're not uploading, that might be why. But we're more than willing to get on a call with them and assist you in any way that we can to do that. Paycom was a really interesting one in that they told us they would not ever allow an upload into a system. And then I got their format and I showed them wrong, and we are uploading into their system now. So I guess it just depended on who you talk to. Got somebody else on a good day and she's like, oh yeah, I can get that for you. So I saved it and now I use it for all of our Paycom clients. But just in terms of the other ones, it's kind of the same thing. We've got the formats available. We can use them. We want to help you. We want to be able to streamline those things. And I know for a big part, a lot of you are uploading after open enrollment, and then you're choosing to manually make changes throughout the course of the year. And in some cases, it's just because there's very few that you're doing, or maybe it's not even in your wheelhouse. There's a payroll person who's doing it, and they don't feel comfortable doing the uploads. If that's the case, have them talk to us. We're more than willing to come out and meet with them and try to make their lives a little easier as well. In terms of generic reporting, if you have a different system or you just want a file that's in a different format, all you need to do is let us know and we can send you the generic file that can be created out of the system. What we've also done as well is I've got like a client with ADP that we are sending them the format for upload, and then they are saying, well, we'd really like the employee's name on it, and we'd like a few more things so that we can audit it better. So we can send you two files. We can send you the format that you need for upload and then the format that you can actually read to be able to understand who it is, what the benefit name is, instead of it being just a bunch of codes. So we're more than willing to do that for you as well. And that is the end of my presentation about reporting, and I have 1 minute and 23 seconds left, so I did pretty good on my timing. What kind of questions does anybody have? Any pain points, any suggestions? Especially since we still have Ruthie in the room, this would be a great opportunity. Yes, Christy. The generic payroll report?
Yeah, we're one of those ones that's still hand entering. I'd like to not be hand entering, but there's been a lot of hurdles.
Aren't you CompuTrol?
Yes. I've talked to you a million times.
I was going to say.
And I got it, the last thing I got was an email from the company saying I had to change a bunch of stuff, and I didn't get to it right away, and now time has passed and COVID happened. We haven't circled back. Anyways, so for right now, we're using the generic payroll report.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm using the generic payroll report and manually processing right now. So, but it said on the report that the report is outdated. I'm worried that it's going to go away because we're using it right now. So is that going away? Or there's a new one that says employer extract on it that doesn't have the same information. And so we haven't changed to using
Ruthie's back there shaking her head, so let's see what Ruthie has to say.
There is a new version of the generic payroll. There is a new version of the generic payroll. It is much more efficient. It runs a lot faster. If it's missing some information, let your CSM know, and they'll let the technology team know, and they'll let Celerix know, and we'll get it fixed for you, or we'll add it to it.
So
There's no
what's-
problem with us adding to those fields.
So what's the recommendation on that? Because that is an employer extract and not a payroll file.
Yeah,
So the dates are going to be different.
yeah, and so that it also depends. Are you working with, you need something where you're going to get deduction dates or effective dates? That's really that's the other big difference between it. The employer one has effective dates. The payroll one has deduction dates.
But let's, who's your CSM now? Do you know? Susan? Okay, Susan, I'm going to give you a directive. This is going to be a goal. We are going to get Southern Hancock onto uploading payroll with CompuTrol. So put that on my radar. You can send me a ticket for it, because I can reach out to CompuTrol and find out. I can send them a copy and be like, okay, what is it about this report that we need to change? Because we don't want you having to make a bunch of manual updates to the reporting before it gets entered into the system. There should be no reason for that. And
My memory is a little fuzzy, but I think that the problems that we have aren't with your file that's coming in.
well, that's good to hear, but we still want to help you. Well, we still want to help you because that's a lot of changes to have to key in every year. So we'll definitely work on that. And that's with CompuTrol, that online version is newer for us. I mean, we were doing the DOS system for years and years, so I was pretty confident with that one. But we'll definitely, I like challenges, so we're going to work on that one for sure. Anybody else have any questions? Before it looks like everybody else is going to start coming in here. I guess that's what I get for starting 7 minutes late. No? All right, well, thank you very much for your time and attention, and it's been a pleasure.